players, a lot of players who, what's his name? Braley isn't in that list. Is picked out there. Patterson, did he miss out as well? I
I
have
think
a,
he did,
I
yeah.
have a, I have a feeling that I didn't see him in the game, so that usually means he had missed out. Um, yeah, so they really did rest some people. Uh, so probably more to come from
Yeah,
the back.
Pattinson wasn't in the team, and they started hospital patient Gary Wheeler back at fullback.
And he didn't get injured. But credit to Rovers, they were on top throughout the game from what I saw, so well done to them. On Sunday, a decisive fixture that actually was probably the most important in the end because it decided who got four
Yeah,
home games from the Championship clubs, and it finished Barrow 6, London 72. Brian Davies had a long trip over to South Cumbria to see this one.
yeah. Brian says that he had an eventful day out, arrived a few minutes late as my train was cancelled. Fortunately, Broncos waited for me before scoring and made it 38-0 at half-time. They needed to win by 45 to make the second spot and the extra home fixture. Second half, Barrow started better, and I thought 45 might elude them, but after a good defence, London made it 72 points to 6. Great gesture by the London players to come and shake all our hands at the end of the game and thank us for coming. Yeah, brilliant from the Broncos. And they did it having to switch things up a little bit because they had to made a bit of a shift in how they organised themselves because they had Elwar Pelissier was starting at hooker, which meant Richie Cunningham moved back into the halves along with
came off the bench,
Pewey Rangi, and then Jam Sandwich came off the bench. So did you see the picture afterwards of the London dressing room?
No, I saw them. I saw a video of them celebrating.
Yeah, well, Jared Samet, he clearly has been spending more time than previously in the gym, and he's got a tattoo that sort of looks like a sort of mantelpiece almost across him as well. And he's quite a specimen. They also were hit by a late injury as well, with Matt Davis having to pull out and Tom Spencer coming onto the bench, and Rob Butler for Medway Dragon coming onto the bench there. So they did well to keep it together after those changes. Of Ben Failer was refereeing this one as well up there in Cumbria. It's quite interesting that he was in that one. But I think it does bode well, give them quite a bit of a lift again for the.
Yeah, I listened to the first half an hour on the radio, and by then it was clear it was done, and it was clear they were on the way. Maybe just over the first half an hour. It took them a little bit to settle into it, but then once they did, they kind of scored at will. A couple of hat tricks in there and a couple of doubles as well. So well done to London, richly deserved. I'm glad that they found the form again right at the back end after they kind of, I wouldn't say stumbled necessarily, but they certainly put themselves on the back foot a little bit until this late run. This Barrow win has emphasised that they can score some points after having to play against all their main opposition, pretty much. And
one of the best things, the Broncos though is the number of local lads they've got in that side, and products of their academy like Dan Hindmarsh, kind of various ones that have come through.
Walker.
Yeah, and him that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, what's his name? Will Lovell. Those, all those players. They got Purangi, all those that they've brought on, or developed, or brought through. So that's fantastic.
Batley 40, Swinton 18 in possibly the least relevant game of the weekend. Halifax 38, Rochdale 6. Halifax were able to confirm theirs, and again this one was pretty much done by half time. Leigh 34, Sheffield 10. For a while, Sheffield led in this one before Leigh kind of clicked into gear and gave the fans something to be heartened by after a difficult week for that match.
Speaking of Leigh, and just to jump back a bit, did you see all the conspiracy theories going around Twitter that Toronto had deliberately rested those players to screw Leigh over? That was their sole motivation, not the fact that they're playing too many games and they wanted to use the whole of their squad. No, it was just to screw Leigh over. That was their sole motivation.
I'm pretty sure Lou had screwed themselves over in the first 5 weeks of the season, unfortunately. The final weekend sees London, Toulouse and Halifax confirm their qualifiers places alongside Toronto, despite wins for both chasing sides, Featherstone and Leigh, who finished 5th and 6th disappointingly for them. As a silver lining, on 32 points, they're both already safe in the Championship Shield final. Batley on 16 points, can't catch them. Sheffield finish on 14 points. Dewsbury and Barrow both finish on 13. Swinton and Rochdale finished on 8 points. Those 8 sides we've given the points for will carry all those tallies over into the Championship Shield eights, where the question of relegation will be the focus for us over the next 2 months there. In League One, round 4 catch-up game, Coventry 64, West Wales 6. I know we normally like you to give a word on Coventry games, but routine kind of thing, and you weren't at that one, were you? You were.
I wasn't there. I was.
Midweek trip over.
Yeah, I was having a very fun evening of work, that one. But yeah, good to see that the tries were spread out throughout the side, and
had some of the universities, students,
some of those
back,
and they were playing. Some of them they were playing their 6th game in 18 days.
Wow.
Oh, that would be on Sunday. They were playing the 6th game in the 18 days. So fantastic effort from those guys to be backing up to play that amount of rugby, and that's certainly Ben Stead, who would have played 80 minutes in virtually all of those, and Jason Bass, who would, although he did have 10 minutes sitting down in one of the student games for getting a yellow card, but they did fantastically to weather that period, and that result really backed up the brilliant win the week before against Keighley. So
it was 4 in a row at that stage for the Bears. Into League One's regularly scheduled fixtures, the round 19 fixtures. It was London Broncos 12, Bradford 58. A couple of people saw this one.
Yeah, Brian Davies said, tight first half, and it looked like Scholars might run Bradford close, but in the second half the Bulls opened the home side up and ran in the expected hatful of points. These final games for Bulls and York are all about winning, and winning by big margins. Bulls have the edge, but York could pull it back. Jordan nearly looked at home, and be good to see him get some proper game time over the next year or so.
Yeah, and Dr. Hideous said after a flurry of early scores it was looking a bit West Welsh, but the Scholars managed to stay in touch, and it was only 6:20 at half-time with a Bulls try moments before the hooter. The second half was much the same. The final score of 12:58 hides a performance that the Scholars can be proud of. It was Hemel 30, West Wales 22, North Wales 22, Workington 36. Mark Butler got in touch about this one, Tim?
Yep, strange game in Wrexham. Crusaders started both halves well, but twice failed to keep the intensity of discipline going. Workington took advantage of this without looking at all impressive themselves. They didn't have to work that hard for their points, but they were value for the win. All the more so as they probably got the rough end of the calls and were vocal about that. Now, I don't know if you saw the clip that was doing its rounds on social media about Leon Price watching the play, falling over. Hilarious.
It is very funny.
Who doesn't like someone that looks a bit like a giraffe falling over?
He was quite critical of the match officials, though, wasn't he? Which is slightly less funny.
Surprise.
There was a few games, and we're going to get to another one as well, where there's a lot of criticism of the match officials. There's questions to be answered about maybe the quality control of the match officials at that level, but I think there's better ways and channels to do it potentially than how Craig Lingard did it in Keighley 16, Hunslet 24, Doncaster 26, Oldham 22 in one of the big games. I think that we picked out as the game of the week, didn't we? And Donny are continuing their resurgence in that division. Whitehaven 12.
We'll be seeing them down at the Butts Park Arena this weekend.
Well, it's going to be a tough proposition because they're probably the form side now outside of the top two, with Cov getting this defeat that we're going to get them to. Whitehaven 12, Newcastle 8, and York 68, Coventry 6. Bradford.
Yeah, listen to this one. Listen to this one on the radio, on BBC Radio York. So I tried to listen on the proper sport, but it sounded like they were in a rainforest. So swiftly moved back to BBC Radio York, and York just came out electrically from the get-go. Certainly, Ben Cockayne was imposing himself, and they were just executing well. Coventry didn't do a huge amount wrong from the sounds of things, but just were being beaten.
Superior opposition.
Being beaten by a team that, they did the same at the Butts Park Arena, where York were just able to execute that much better and just shut them out of the game effectively, starve them of ball and do really well for it. So fair play to York.
Bradford and York are on 34 points. They stay well clear of the rest, and York eat a little into the Bulls' points difference advantage. Workington and Whitehaven keep their good form running on 26 points, but Oldham, Doncaster and Hunslet all on 24 means that the race for the playoff spot stays tense and exciting. Keighley on 20 and Newcastle on 18 are still in striking distance too. North Wales stay on 13 points. The Bears have 10 points and overtake the Scholars on the table. Hemel get their second win, both over bottom placed West Wales. In the Women's Super League there was one result to bring you. It was York 6, St Helens 26. In the NRL, it was round 20. It was the Broncos 12, the Sharks 10, the Cowboys 20, the Knights 18, the Bulldogs 16, the West Tigers 4, the Sea Eagles 24, the Panthers 28, Rabbitohs 26, Eels 20, and Inspired's second half comeback by the Rabbitohs. George Burgess had 105 metres, Tom Burgess had 112 metres, Sam Burgess had 114 metres.
Triple Burgess.
Yep. It was the Storm 44, the Raiders 10, although despite that, Josh Hodgson did manage a try assist. Elliot Whitehead was played in the centres in this one, so maybe, expected not as good a performance from him in not his best position. Titans 36, Warriors 12, Roosters 36, Dragons 18. James Graham played 102 metres. Widdop also played with his wonderful hair. We haven't had more views in to settle whether it was good or bad hair, so we'll move on to the standings. The Storm stay top, joined on 30 points by the Rabbitohs. The Roosters and the Dragons make up the top four. They're both on 28 points. The Panthers, Sharks and Broncos all have 26 points, and the Warriors in 8th are on 24. West Tigers are the closest, chasing the top 8. They're on 20 points in 9th. Raiders and Knights have 18, and Titans probably just about still in the race on 16 points. It would take something bonkers for the Bulldogs, the Eagles or Cowboys to make the top 8, and the Eels need a miracle now. They are last chance saloon. They need everyone else to lose every game, which isn't possible because they've all got to play each other,
yeah.
and they need to win all their own games. In terms of other stuff, we got something in on one of the curtain raisers to the Scholars against Bulls game, so take us through that, Tim, to round out the other results.
Dr. Hideous said, fresh from winning the London Nines, the West Warriors gave the Scholars lads a good kicking, winning 48-4. Scholars' ball handling was poor, and the Warriors, a team of Kiwi expats, have some very talented players who only aren't playing semi-pro rugby because of visa restrictions.
So that is... Thanks for that one, David. That's a good insight. That now takes us all through those results, and this very long show will now run into preview and predictions. Preview and predictions time now in association with Love Rugby League. Head to loverugbyleague.com for the latest news, gossip, opinion pieces and even more stats on the greatest game. Today, Tim, I read the James Gordon's column that he does every week.
Yeah.
On there, it was kind of about stop trying... It was an interesting take on things, basically, and how by moaning but then it's talking about the thing we alluded to before with newspaper coverage dropping. The Times have axed their regular rugby league coverage from the Times, and the Sunday Times is only going to cover the main events really now,
which is a shame because it's another reason where we just lose that little bit of sparkle and sheen, and that we might get the odd boost in attention off that sort of thing. But
yeah, so it sort of talks about that, but how we sort of sit here and criticise people for not covering us, but then spend the rest of our time criticising everything the sport does. So where are we really at? Basically outlining all the big questions. It was a pertinent read, I would suggest. Okay,
I'll have a check of that one tomorrow lunchtime then.
Challenge Cup semi-finals, that's the big thing we've got to preview here. The first one kicks off Sunday 12:30pm. They're both on the BBC. St Helens versus Catalans. Now when the draw was made, Tim, this was only going one way, wasn't it? But
it was only going one way and very, very quickly that way as well.
But now that we've had
some moral vacuum introduced,
a bit of a spell. Obviously Greg Bird looks likely to be missing this one depending on the outcome of his hearing tomorrow if we record on the Monday. But other than that, lots of other Catalan players will be coming back into the side from the side that played Wigan. They protected themselves pretty well. They even rested Mickey Mack for most of that game too. I think when they saw things were boiling over, they thought, don't put him back in, this is only going to go one way. St Helens, on the other hand, were fiercely tested but have an extra day's rest, and also the lack of travelling situation that Catalans obviously would face. They're looking in good shape. They're looking in pretty fit, pretty much in form. Who it's two informed sides. Probably Huddersfield are the other informed side, but
this is going to be the game. Is it? You almost think that they should have possibly done the kickoffs the other way around and had this as sort of the main event.
When it was drawn, the right way round. Leeds were still in the top 8. It was Leeds. It was the right way around when it was drawn up.
Yeah. I've gone Saints by 12. I just think that the Lomax, Roby, Barber, Thompson, 12 others, that it's just going to be devastating.